I was living in Phnom Penh during a Chinese New Year, which is celebrated there quite fervently. Me and my colleague got a week off work, so we decided to do some sightseeing and go down to the south of Cambodia and to Kampot province, which is very, very beautiful area. And we even wanted to go up into the Elephant Mountains to see the remains of an old French colonial resort. We got up at the top of a mountain called Phnom Bokor. Phnom is Cambodian for mountain. And this old resort, it was built in the 20s and 30s, and it had a huge casino and a big hotel with a ballroom and classy things like this. The king, it must have been King Sisowath back then, had a palace up there as well. But then in the Civil War, there was a huge battles fought up there, and so nobody lives there. And they mined the road up there and the hill so much that people have only started going there in the last couple of months. And a couple of the newspapers did stories on it and told we learnt like where to go and what to see from that. So what's up there? There's the old French ghost town, which includes the casino and the Grand Hotel. Then there's a lookout point from which you can see absolutely miles into the Gulf of Thailand, which is gorgeous. And then there's also a watering hole where herds of wild elephant come in the evening and early morning. The nearest town to this is a provincial capital called Kampot. So me and my colleague Pui, who's Thai, we took a share taxi down to Kampot, then tried to find out about getting a motorbike taxi, which is the way to travel in Cambodia, a motorbike taxi, up to the top of this hill, which is only about 40 kilometers, but people were asking for lots of money to take us up there, and we weren't too keen on getting ripped off. And just as we were giving up and deciding to go to another old French resort on the seaside called Kep, I noticed that two of my students who had been teaching in Phnom Penh showed up on their motorbikes, and one of them had been up there before and he really liked it, so he offered to drive us up there, which was kind. We agreed to give him some money and so on. And he drove us up there. It was this guy and two of my students there are brothers, and me and Pui, so we were two on a motorbike, and it took us 3 hours to get up to the top to cover this 40 kilometers. Because, well, the road was in terrible shape to begin with, but then also some parts of the jungle, like creepers and vines, had come out into the middle of the road, and so whoever was sitting behind the driver had to keep fending these brambles off, so he wouldn't get prickles in the face. So we got up to the top of this mountain, and then one of my students announced that his bike was out of petrol, and that he'd need a tow to get up the rest of the way to the top of the mountain, and they didn't have any rope, so I had to use my belt and my camera strap to tow up to the top of this hill. We've already been on the road for 3 hours, so I wasn't going to turn around 9/10 of the way to the top. So we made it up to the top and had a look round, and it's absolutely gorgeous. The old colonial hotel and the casino are massive, with a big ballroom in the hotel, and they still have the original tiles down there. Just beautiful patterns on the tiles, and you can really get a sense of the grandeur that would have been there, which is magnificent. And up on the top of this hotel, you can get up onto the roof. It's about 5 stories tall. The Vietnamese army up there had put an anti-aircraft gun, and there's the relics of war up there as well, which it's a really strange place, and there's a very strong sense of history up there. During the Civil War, the Vietnamese occupied the hotel, and the Khmer Rouge were in a small Catholic church about 500 meters away. And inside the church, the Khmer Rouge have drawn pictures of themselves and written poems on the walls. But I'm not able to read Khmer, so I couldn't tell you what they were. So after we'd had a good look around the top, there's also a Thai-style Buddhist temple there, which my friend Pui went into. We sat back down again, and towing. Well, there were 3 of us on one bike now, towing the one guy on the other bike, and he was still trying to get his bike to work, even though it was out of petrol, and we kept putting it in gear, and he eventually broke the chain. So my friend Pui, I don't know how she managed to do it, but she managed to fix it so that the back wheel actually turned, by doing something with a branch of a tree and a strap from my bag. So I haven't figured out how she managed to do that, but she could ride a motorcycle when she was about 7. So anyway, we were going down the mountain, and the bike which the 3 of us were on, because going down the mountain we had to use the brakes a lot, we managed to wear them out. And so we jumped on the other bike which Pui had fixed with the branch and the strap, and freewheeled down there on that bike, while the guy with no brakes just went shooting off down the mountain, and we met him later at the bottom. Yes, and once we were down on flatland, we were able to be towed by the one with no brakes, but still had an engine. We made it back to Kampot, and in the end, ironically, the cost of the repairs for my students' bikes far exceeded what we would have paid to have got a motor taxi up there. But it was a wonderful trip, and unfortunately we weren't able to see any of the wild elephants there. But we met an Italian man who runs a guest house and a safari tour down there in the town of Kampot. And he said that he was taking some tourists up there in his 4-wheel drive when an elephant came out of the bushes and charged them. Fully charged them on this narrow track. And he managed to get away. He must have just reversed down the mountain, I guess, and turned round to ask if the tourists if they'd got any pictures. And he says they were all under the seats.